Hi there, I'm Dr. Laquita J, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about all things in between being and becoming a pharmacist. How you doing? You all right? Today, or whenever you want, in this video, let's say that in this video, I do want to talk about the NABP guide, application bulletin guide for people who are sitting for NAPLEX. So in this video, I want to share that, and let's get started in sharing this. So, okay. So here, this is your NAPLEX bulletin, and it comes out every single year. So if you are a pharmacist who's sitting for United States, this is what you get. And I just want to go briefly discuss this. So let's get started. Here, let's go to like the key things, what you need to know. So let's go into what is the NAPLEX exam. This is, of course, the North American Pharmacist Licensure exam, and the format is, the NAPLEX is 6 hours. It's composed of 225 questions, in which 200 of those questions will be calculating your results, and the remaining 25 will not be. That's when the key thing about it is, and you have different type of questions, one being scenario-based format, one also being in the sense of, I'll say scenario-based cases, simple math questions, straightforward, and just different things of, you have to know how to look at a patient profile, look at medical records and things, look for the information to get that. You will not, and the key thing is this, you will not be able to proceed to the next question until you have completed strolling through the entire information being presented, because it shows that you have read all the information being presented. So if you to honestly look at the information. And it's also a thing too, because it's a certain button you have to click when you take the NAPLEX exam. And a lot of times people forget that there's another button you have to click to see the patient profile. So that's one of the things you definitely want to be mindful of when you are taking the exam. And in addition, yeah, I was like, yeah. And then too, there's no skipping for any of the questions. You have to follow the questions in order. So that's another key thing too, to also look for the exam format. So be mindful of that. And then during the exam, you do have 10 optional, you have 2 optional 10-minute breaks. I will always say take your breaks. One, because it helps with your anxiety. That's a good time to do those deep breathing techniques, belly breaths. And if you haven't watched it, watch my video on how to help with test anxiety. So that's a really good tool to use. And I always say use the break, because you just need that mental thing, because most of the time when you're taking NAPLEX, you're sitting for a 6-hour long exam, and that exam creates mental fatigue, and you have to have the stamina to keep on going and answering all those questions, and to really be in the zone of thinking. And I'll even say too, when you're like, it's a 6-hour exam, just think about if you are working, an 8-hour shift or 10-hour shift or 12-hour shift, you're constantly using your brain. You're constantly trying to find a problem. You're constantly answering questions, scenarios. That's getting your way of truly practicing as a pharmacist. So be mindful of that when it comes to that particular thing. The competencies, I'll explain in the next video and things of this nature, and we'll kind of go talk about that. The different resources that they have applied. Now, when it comes to retake is very, very important. When it comes to NAPLEX, one, you have to submit an application fee of $100, and you must be, it's more so approved by your state board of pharmacy as well. Reconfirm, and then they'll give it to you. So for your first time taking the exam, it's $520 required. For the retake, of course, it'll be $100 fee. But if you pass if you fail your exam, you have to wait 45 days before you sit for the other exam. That's why 40 days to pass NAPLEX was created, that program, because it's to help pharmacists within that gap in that 45-day waiting period. So that's one of the programs, shameless plug, but not for that. And also too, you have to be mindful of this. If you fail the exam, for your first, there's a 3 attempt within a 12-month period. So if this is you fail on the second attempt, fail the first attempt, you have to wait 45 days. If you fail on the second attempt, you got to wait another 45 days. However, if you only can take the exam within three times within a 12-month period. So just be mindful of that. And if it's like your fourth attempt, you have to wait at least 12 months before taking the exam from your first attempt. So that's something you have to be mindful of. And there is a 5 attempt max limit for your board of pharmacy. You have to do within 5 months. So this is kind of different because the NAPLEX here is you have to have 3 attempts. Different boards of pharmacies are different. Some board of pharmacies are like, it's been over a year, you have to reapply and start all over again. It all depends on perfectly your state. And it comes to how many things, but as a general whole, you only have 5 attempts, and 3 of those attempts are going to be taken within one 12-month period. So context saying you graduated from pharmacy school in May, you set for the exam in July, you fail the exam. You decide to take the exam back in November. That's your second attempt, you fail that exam. So then your third attempt, let's just say May. Okay, that's fine. And you fail that exam. But you can't see, you have to wait a whole nother year or so. After you fail that first attempt in May, you have to wait an entire 12-month period since then. So just be mindful of that. Okay. That's one of the key things to say. And we're not going to do the MPJE because we're more so talking about NAPLEX right now. So that's one of the key things. And when it comes to NAPLEX, if you have armed forces discount that is offer that. The key thing is apply ahead as much as possible to apply ahead. The more you apply ahead to get that discount, the better it will be, because that can be a time consuming thing. Just FYI. And I do like, I will not see with this. I do like this particular one, how to apply for the NAPLEX exam. These are key steps you want to make sure you take advantage of. Like to determine your licensures. You meet for the Board of Pharmacy website. That's when you go into your website and see all the criteria. So the key thing will be, if it's your first time sitting for the exam, they will list out how to become licensed in their state, and you just follow those steps. Then you apply for the NAPLEX exam, pay the application fee, and then you would send your transcripts and stuff like that to NABP. A lot of times your school would do that. If you graduated, if you graduated and things at school would kind of help you out sending some stuff, but that's totally fine. You can do it yourself, send the transcript stuff that you need, and then you purchase the exam. After you purchase the exam, that's when they'll give you your AT&T, and that's basically your authorization to take the exam. And then based off your AT&T, you can schedule your exam from there. And it's different kind of practice you want to do for that. So I want to make sure I went over that. And other key thing too, accommodations. Listen here. Let me tell you something here. I like to tell this to all my clients when it comes to requesting ADAD testing. If you know you're not a good test taker, if you know that you are a person who needs special accommodations, do not this is not the time to act like you do not need it. This is not the time. If you know your stress levels are always through the roof, you know you're currently being diagnosed with anxiety, you know you're currently being diagnosed with ADHD, you're currently being diagnosed even depression, things of this nature, you want to make sure you communicate that to the NABP and get those testing accommodations, because you don't have to be perfect. This is not the time to be perfect when you know you can't handle it. If you have went through pharmacy school and you know you had accommodations, now it's not the time to neglect those. You want to make sure that you always have those accommodations. So please communicate that to the NABP board. Go on ahead and get the approval, and that's needed with your support documentation, things of that nature, because you're going to need it. I have truly seen some of my clients who finally just went request to get those accommodations, and how it has helped them to pass their exam. So I'm going to advocate that for always. Okay, so make sure you get that. So when it comes to the exam room, making sure that I should do this. I not be forgetting that you can scroll up. I forget that. But when it comes to your exam, you're getting into the exam room, you want to make sure that you have your ID, an ID with your name on it, like whatever name you registered it with name. whatever name you register on your AT&T, make sure it matches on your ID. So specifically saying, like you're saying, if it's John D. Smith, it's okay if it's John David Smith. But see, here's the thing here. When it sees here, it comes down to certain ones have like you have John D. Smith, but your ID say John J. Smith, we can't do that. Or you say John David Smith Jr. and you don't have the junior on your ID, it has to match in that sense. Everything has to have, or you say John Smith, your ID says John David Smith. No, it's simply put, if you just do first name and last name, make sure your ID has first name and last name. If you put first, middle, last name, make sure your ID has first, middle, last name. If you do first, middle, last name, suffix, make sure your ID has first, middle, last name, suffix. They have to have those things, because if you look at it here, that's when all the problems become. You see they have 3, there go 3. You see they have 3, there go 3. You see they have 4, there go 4. You see they have 4, there go 4. You see they have 4, there go 4. It's always like that. If you're looking on this section 8, it's always matching it. So just be mindful of that. Okay? All right. And then you also too want to look at how to take your exam. So when it comes to your exam, always come early. That's always a thing. Be early, bring your identification. We are probably in the habit of COVID. They kind of slack up a little about that, a little bit. Oh yeah, different forms of ID, course, passports, driver license, additional IDs. I always welcome military IDs, any kind of those are set IDs. So be mindful of that. And accommodations, that all depends on like your peer review, your site, testing site for the main part for that. And when it comes to when you go in the exam room, you have to be seated. You have to raise your hand in order to get up. They also check pens, your glasses, make sure there's like no kind of camera, anything for that. You sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Be mindful of that. That's why I always tell people when you're sitting here taking the exam, you come out the exam, you like to share things that you have done or things you see on the exam. You did sign an NDA that can hurt your chances of taking the board. So be very mindful of when you're discussing questions you've seen on the exam, things of that nature, because that can really hinder you. Like, be mindful of that. I see a lot of people say, well, I had this on my exam and that on my exam. You did sign an NDA. That could help. That could prevent you from becoming a licensed pharmacist. So be mindful of that. Okay. Just want to make sure I have that. All your supplies we provided to you. They will provide you a dry erase board with a pen. You can't erase anything at all. They do it for themselves. Want to make sure that you have integrity and you are the most your integrity and your honesty. So be mindful of that as well. They do have an on-screen calculator. It's one of those scientific calculators. TIX30. I think I have one here. It's like one of these here. Yeah. I hope I'm completely. So they have one of these. You can take that on the screen. They'll have one of those. It's kind of doozy, but it's one of those things. Okay. And also too, when you have your cell phone, like no electronic devices at all. Some test areas are a little more lenient, but be mindful of they don't like any outside thing. No watches, no cat, like anything, beverages, food in the testing room. You can't even come in there with study notes or anything. Like you can't study during the exam or any of that. You just, hey, in the testing room, it's best to leave all those stuff behind. I know some people like to bring it, but just don't even bring no type of study material unless it's in your car. When it come inside, don't try to study. I know again, some people may be lax, so study is. I know some people are still like facilities are more lax, so don't bring anything that's studying. Study materials for the exam. You may bring your like snack food and like they have a weight and like a little locker you put that stuff in, but it's stuff for that. Like just go in with you in your jacket. Always bring your jacket because you never know you may need. But everything else will be outside the testing room for the most part. And okay. And then it comes to like, well, you got the misconduct and stuff like that. So I will say that misconduct during an exam. Be mindful, even if you're talking to yourself during the exam, that you're quiet, because if they feel like you're talking to someone, they can pull you out. Don't get up unless you have to. They don't do any type of disturbance. Don't remove any kind of testing stuff. Like if they have like your own stretch paper, everything's provided from them. Do not leave the test room without permission. They will sign you in. They will sign you out. You just raise your hand till it's time for you to go. Until whatever. If you have issues, just raise your hand. Don't look around. Just like raise your hand like that and just let that be that. Okay. Don't do any of the extra stuff. So just want to make sure I not really say that. Okay. Now, NAPLEX results will be passed or failed. It all depends on it depends on your board of pharmacy and how soon you get those results. I know different people have tricks and stuff like you got a box check while you pass. It all depends on your your board of pharmacy, because not all states do electronic. Some people do written. So that's the kind of thing. This is how your sample exam will look. It doesn't tell you many results. I'm gonna tell you that now. Just be mindful that it's not gonna tell you much at all. So be mindful of that and how it looks. Just FYI. For the most part. Just for the most part. And if you do pass the exam, one of the things about it, so you pass the exam, it is a good time to purchase your NAPLEX score transfers. Any other state, that's the cheapest time to do it, because it only costs $75 per jurisdiction once you pass, and you have up to 9 days to do that. So you thinking like, hey, I passed in, let's say, Virginia, and you want to do Maryland, now's the time once you pass the score to go ahead and do Maryland, because it's cheap. If you wait, it's going to cost, you got to pay that Maryland fee, stuff like that. Transfer, it gets a little bit expensive. So just be mindful of that. Okay. And I think this is enough for this exam. I hope y'all I think I covered all the bases for this exam. So this is the basis of what to expect. We're going to dive a little more into this, but I just want to come in and give like an introduction to what about the NAPLEX, what it is, different things, and quickly going over this, and I'll talk more about it as well, but I just want to be mindful of this for you guys. I do hope you have enjoyed this as well, but I definitely want to say this much, and yeah, because I don't think it's any else I want to talk about this. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, like, comment, subscribe to our channel. Let us know below if you like this, you want to see more videos about this. I would love to know. And as always, until next time, remember that pharmacy is on limit if you are. Now go be great. Talk to you.